If my younger self could see the current me, she would be absolutely in disbelief. She would be so mad at the things that I was saying because it kind of doesn't make sense when you read it on paper. But after everything that I've moved through, I know that that really is the only way forward.
The way out is in.
Thich Nhat Hanh saying the way out is in. I remember the first time that I read it and I was like, because it just resonated so deeply. Essentially, in order to make change in the world, we have to make change within first. I'm so much more resilient and have such a expanded capacity for being a change maker in this world now that I have turned inwards and faced so much of the pain that has been inside of me for so long than I did before when I showed up to the front lines.
Because of the climate change, we have to do something. We have to use our privilege to speak our voice.
Yeah!
Nothing changes if nothing changes. Nothing changes if nothing changes.
So,
Nothing changes.
yeah, when I was really involved in the local climate activist movement back where I lived in the United States, it was coinciding with the time that my mental health was just at its absolute worst, and I was struggling with panic attacks and really intense anxiety and depression, and at the time undiagnosed OCD, and I moved about in the organizing world and in the climate movement world, unaware of the pain that I held, and I hadn't yet learned much about trauma, and especially what moved from behind the shadows was my shame. I was holding all of this shame inside and also facing every single day all of this external pain around climate despair and climate grief, and it was just the perfect recipe for a burnout. I knew I had to step away because I also started navigating the feelings of not wanting to be alive anymore. And I started actually seeing a decolonizing therapist, and she really helped orient me on this path of understanding shame and understanding trauma and understanding how shame is also a colonial tactic. I started learning about these different modalities and how trauma impacts the body and is stored and kept, and before that I didn't have any idea what it even was. And as I in particular started learning about internal family systems, I also started learning about the nervous system and nervous system regulation, and I could finally start to turn inwards and make sense of what was going on with curiosity and gentleness and unconditional love rather than critique and shame, because I became so much more softer and so much more loving and so much more hopeful. And not only was I giving that to myself, but I could also give it to the people around me and to also people who cause harm, and understanding more deeply where that harm comes from. And know the earth still turns as everything burns. Where does your hope lie? I orient towards the sky. My hope lies in the stars. The universe expands quite far. We know nothing, yet I am assured by a soft and mysterious, invisible something. While being here at Plum Village, something that's really been illuminated for me is the power of safe enough containers, how exponential my healing has happened in this hands-off way, and just getting to not only exist and live at a Buddhist practice center, at a mindfulness practice center, but also working on the farm and living on the farm in community. I have felt so held, and there are so many conditions for just experiencing safeness and safety, and knowing that I have meals and friendship and meaningful work and joyful, playful times with people who are on a really similar path, living by a similar ethic, has been so nourishing and so supportive.
It's really great.
The best part is you're laughing.
Yeah, and then people start laughing at my laugh.
But we don't have time. We don't have the time to all meditate for years and
Right.
work on our trauma.
Right. Yeah.
We need to save the planet.
Right. We very much so are, in a way, running out of time. But the future that I want to live with is a future that involves humans living from an ethic of love. And right now, I think we're still very much so lost in a lovelessness. However, I can really sense and see that we are moving in that direction, especially as trauma healing and healing in general becomes so much more accessible and so many people are learning about it at such a rapid rate. I think that they really can happen at the same time. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Time is now, and the action is love, and the front line is in your heart.